Hey, I get it. There's a deluge of crazy things going on. There's the feeling of being overwhelmed by just so many things going wrong in the United States right now. And you're not the only one. I hear from many people, it just doesn't make sense what's going on. Why are they doing this? Why are all these different things happening? Some terrible. And let's face it, most of the mainstream news and even a lot of the social media commentators, they're going to pepper you with, oh, what's happening today? What's the media focused on today? What's the big story that's breaking? And then you feel outrage. And then the next thing comes up. And I bet most of the people that watch my channel, they know there's something much deeper causing a lot of what's going on. There are reasons behind this. There is purpose. And let's face it, there is coordination. And the problem that I think many people face is because there's so many things coming at you, it's hard to see the big picture. So nothing makes sense. And there's this deluge of outrageous things like ICE abseiling into a building, breaking down citizens' doors, grabbing their naked children, zip tying them, brutalizing the children and throwing them into a filthy truck. And somehow this is the United States. And then you've got people like Hegseth that presumably found a fishing boat with a fisherman and his family and killed all 11 of them. And in the process, broke the Geneva Convention and made America look like a banana republic, a group of pirates or something. That's the view that's out there. If anybody thinks that that's a just and noble thing to be doing, you can ask the question with these things, why are they doing this? And then one outrage is replaced by another one. There's an avalanche of them. And deep down, I know a lot of the people that watch my channel, you know that there's something going on, that there is coordination, that there is reason behind this, that there is some kind of grand plan that's driving this. The problem is it's hard to look behind the curtain and understand exactly what's happening and why. And then let's face it, with the mainstream media or even the social media, what are they telling you? Honestly, I think a lot of them only are able to read a story and retell it in their unique way and put their flavor and personality into it. You know what I mean? And maybe you like the sound of their voice. Maybe you like the look of their face, or maybe you like the way they tell the story. Maybe they're really funny. Maybe they're really factually in depth on that particular subject. And that's what we're living in now. It's almost like the whole nation is doom scrolling through either mainstream media or social media or whatever. But there's just this cacophony of noise coming at you. And somehow you've got to make sense that there is major moves afoot, that there is coordination, that there are deep down very real reasons that all make sense if you can decode what's happening. Now, some of the media, they might not know or understand what's going on. And some of them, maybe they're too scared to say what they can see. And then some people might just be lurking in the shadows, observing and understanding, but they don't want to take the risk to take a stance and call a spade and lay out the whole political battlefield, the whole unfolding of arguably one of the most critical times in US history. That's where we're at. And also some of the things that you can find can seem a bit odd out of context. So you need the context and the framework and the structure to show and look at the many battlefields that are being fought right now. And I call it the 4D chess game. There is a massive battlefield, multiple fronts. And my argument is that there is a civil war going on right now in the United States, but it's not fought with cavalry with sabers, soldiers with muskets, and artillery fire using cannons. That's what the last American Civil War was fought with food and armies, physical armies. This is a virtual age. This is a technical age. This is an economic age. This is an age of many facets of technology all coming together. There's a coalescence of changes, including artificial intelligence is a key factor. AI is At its critical point now, it has dramatically increased its capabilities exponentially. So here's where this channel comes in. And while, yes, there will still be commentary on what's topical because you kind of have to do that to get audience share, my intention is to go through chapter and verse and build for the viewership here a complete picture, a picture of all the battlefields, showing how they're being fought, how they interrelate. The real battle right now is the battle for democracy, and it's between an authoritarian regime taking hold as we watch advanced authoritarian consolidation happening in real time. Here's where it gets tricky. Trying to do disparate little stories here and there aren't going to make much sense. We need to put this in a broader context. We need to show the history of where things came from. We need to show where they are now and then where they are moving to, so that we project forward to what are the possibilities. Like the Supreme Court. That's one key battlefield. The shadow docket being used to dramatically increase the speed at which Trump 2.0, the Trump regime, is able to try and override the Constitution, override rules, override the lower courts, who are still following long-established precedent, which is the way the law works. And then there are things like birthright citizenship, which are in black and white in the Constitution, but the Supreme Court has seen fit to suspend that, while Trump has put out an executive order saying that it doesn't apply. This is just one example, one of many battlefields, and one specific battle that's being fought. The point I'm making is we have to see all of this in a context. How is the Supreme Court configured? Why is it applying judgments the way it does? What's the background? What are the big movements that are happening? How does this coordinate with a much wider master plan? And then who is behind all of this? Which people are working together in what ways? What is their objective? These are the questions that need to be answered. So the purpose of this channel is to bring all of these things together, is to build a clear picture for you so that you can better grasp why particular decisions are being made. Because some of them look like they're chaotic and erratic. And while some may be, and deliberately so, to be a distraction, sometimes what is distracting is allowing something that is carefully planned and being cemented into place and implemented. And it's like the Steve Bannon concept of high muzzle velocity. And the idea is that you flood the zone. You do lots of things so that they can get a lot of things through unchallenged. What I want to do is to show what those objectives are, what those strategies appear to be, who the drivers are, and where those main drivers are united and where they have disagreements. It's really important to know this. At the moment, I don't think anybody's really saying this. Some people are chiseling around the edges, but they're not really getting to the heart. There are a variety of critical developments that have happened. And so the mission here is to cover every angle, is to build that picture for you, is to interactively, because you can ask questions, send them through, raise opinions, help highlight things that other people aren't too. This is where that can happen. And then out of that is exactly how people can fight for democracy, can recognize how the authoritarian consolidation is unfolding, where the key points of battle are, and where to throw your weight, whether it's money, time, whether it is protesting. There are many different ways and many strategies and many tactics that can be played, but they have to be played intelligently and through recognizing who is doing what, how these battles are being fought, who is fighting the battles. A lot of people seem to be stuck back in some prior age. This isn't the time of the civil rights movement. This is a very different time. And this is where I think a lot of people don't understand. Are there parallels to the past? Yes, there are definitely parallels. Is there wisdom to be gained looking into the past? Yes, there is. But you have to understand the patterns. You have to understand what is happening now and how it is different from the past. It is important on two fronts to understand what happened and why, and to understand what is happening here that is the same or similar that can be applied. But more importantly, why is this a different age? And what is so radically different? And it's understanding why this era is totally different. That's what we're going to be looking at, is lay out the whole battlefield, look at each of the specific battlefields, how they're being fought, who's fighting in them. Yes, pull together the stories that the mainstream and the social media are reporting on, but put them into a context that makes sense, that builds a complete framework and structure for you to be able to understand the whole strategic battle, and then look at the individual tactics and how they all interrelate, and how this is a deeply and well thought out, sophisticated campaign. Yes, there is sophistication, and yes, there is coordination. And what the important thing is to understand what those are. If there's any chance of democracy surviving this authoritarian consolidation and a drive for presumably some sort of dictatorship, if the democracy is to survive, the midterms is the next critical juncture. The 2026 November midterms are vital. And there is now a war being fought over who can vote. There's the attempts to gerrymander. The MAGA forces are now desperately trying to shore up any means they can, even if the majority of people clearly want to replace the Republican Party in the House of Representatives and are adamant about it. Gerrymandering, voter suppression, using ICE as a tool to dissuade people from voting, potentially using the presidential power through executive orders to try and disrupt the 2026 elections. That is a given. The question is, how is that going to be fought? How is that going to be played out? And here's where I differentiate. Trying to say two sides, the Democrats and the Republicans. This is so much bigger than Democrats and the Republicans. That's part of the old system that is now being superseded right now. People have to understand there is an authoritarian play here to replace all of that. The 2026 midterms are going to be a fight over whether democracy survives or not. It is the key point. If the democratic forces don't secure the majority in the House of Representatives in the November elections 2026, and even then, even if they do, there's no security about this. But it is a vital piece in the puzzle, because if the forces for authoritarianism continue to dominate the House of Representatives, then the chances of democracy surviving become remote. Because if the House remains in the power of what is becoming the ruling party, the authoritarian ruling party, that's where the real battle's coming. It's not the only one, but it's a critical one. And so let's face it, the mainstream media, they're not going to try and connect the dots for you. I'm sure a lot of you can connect the dots yourselves, but it would help if you had a fuller picture and able to connect those dots in a structure that makes sense. I mean, let's face it, the mainstream media and even a lot of the social media commentators either don't want to or don't know how to help you join the key dots. Many have their own kind of thinking, and that's that. There is a limit to what they can see and do, because this game is not being played the same way as it has in the past. This is a radically different era. And what I intend to do here is collaboratively and interactively show you the whole picture and together join those dots. There is a degree of risk to doing this, but the future of the United States and the world hangs on this, because if an authoritarian regime takes hold in the United States, which is exactly what is happening right now, an authoritarian consolidation, it is a very dark path from which freedom might never recover. Certainly freedom of speech will be lost and might never return. And this darkness will be like that Iron Curtain that came down in the late 1940s and 1950s. But this will be a high-tech curtain, something that will make 1984 look like a walk in the park. A surveillance state, and one with the rigidity of something like North Korea, but something on a whole scale worse by orders of magnitude, which will sweep the free world. So what's coming? The full meal deal. How it all fits together, armed with the complete architecture. Imagine this, that you can suddenly see the whole architecture unfolding before you, with how it all fits together and why. All the strategies, all the tactics, all the battlefields, the whole lot, visible, clear cut. Who's pulling the strings and why? What tactics, what strategies, what their objectives are likely to be. Understand how the authoritarian consolidation is happening. Join the dots and build a picture for yourself so that you are no longer hit with a deluge of seemingly chaotic and random events. You will be able to see through the fog. You will be able to see clearly why and how all the pieces are moving on the board, because that's what's happening. This is a systematic takeover of democracy. It is the rise of some sort of dystopian nightmare that's happening right now and has been from day one. So we're going to see the coordination. We've got to ask, who's organizing this? How are they coordinating? Where's the money coming from? What playbooks are they playing? And historically, we've seen this before. We can look back for the parallels. Is it going to be exactly the same? No. And just think about the wisdom that can be gained by looking at a variety of different events where authoritarian regimes rose out of democracies and how those democracies died. But it's more than just looking at what happened. It's more than just looking at disparate events happening in real time. It is understanding the patterns, understanding what is different this time around. What are the tactics and the strategies being used? Who's driving them? What are the objectives? And what are the methods and the tools? Really, it's to understand, what does the end game look like? Because if we know what that is and we can work back, we can see how, where we are now, where the potential paths are for them to get to those end goals. You've got to understand who is driving this, how they're driving this, what makes them tick, what are their belief systems, and then how can different people that have really significant disagreements on many things coordinate together for a unified goal. So what is that goal? Here, this is not really about a pundit with just an opinion for today. While there's going to be commentary on things that are happening, it's not going to be about just pure outrage, content, and clickbait. That's not what this is about. And while some of this is really involved and it will be pitched at multiple audiences, this isn't going to get dumbed down to the point that it's just slop. That's not what's going to happen. And while I will tell you what I think, I'm not telling you what to think. I can tell you what I think and what I'm saying, but I want to provide you with a structure that makes sense. And out of that, you join the dots your way. But the thing is that you need to see the dots at first to know how to join them. So here's the unique skill set that comes here, though, at this channel. It is strategic analysis and pattern recognition. It's evidence-based, but the tone here is not to preach. The core idea here is to show you the machinery and the battle, the 4D chess game that's going on. So in essence, many of the other channels, they're going to give you fragments. They're going to focus on their specialty or a particular story or a particular viewpoint. I mean, essentially, they're going to give you fragments of what's going on. They're in their lane, and this is great. I've got no problem with that. The value that I want to bring is to lay out the whole chessboard for you, the whole battlefields. And so those particular fragments can actually sit on a board for you so you can see how the pieces are moving on the board. And so while others are reacting to these things, I'm trying to put them into the context and understand how this is playing out. And so rather than just reacting, my focus is projecting forward based on what we're seeing and what the likely outcomes and potential plays are going to be. Because forewarned is forearmed. If we understand what is happening, what the drivers are, what the battlefield is, how it's being fought, by who, we'll be able to slot these into a growing framework to help you understand how it all fits together and why, and what you can do about it.